Well, Jesus has always been recognized as king and priest as well as sacrifice. And the church has always had a hard time with that last one. Everybody's anxious for him to be the king and for him to be the priest, but the suffering part of it has always been confusing to the church, and even Paul talks about that. He says that Christ crucified is a stumbling block for believers and is viewed as being ridiculous for non-believers. In fact, some of the other religions today reject the idea that Christ could be God because God couldn't possibly die. So that's always been a stumbling block. But since God is holy, and since we are sinful, and since sin cannot exist in the presence of God, then something has to be done to remove that sin. You know, the wages of sin is death. That's not physical death, but separation, eternal separation from God. So something has to be done to bring us back into the presence of God despite our sinfulness. There's nothing that we can do. We are the sinners. The only way that debt can be paid is by someone who is not a sinner, someone who is not sinful, to pay that penalty in our stead. And so Jesus pays that penalty. He is sacrificed once for all. I think that's right out of Paul. And that is sufficient for every believer to be reconciled. And so that's Jesus, by his own choice, chose to be the sacrifice, to be that sacrifice in obedience to the Father. To me, that is a very comforting thought, that someone who is much stronger, much more everything than I am, is willing to be my surrogate in that process, to be sacrificed for me in a very personal way, to wipe away the sins that I simply cannot do myself. So I think that and Jesus certainly knew that his role as a sacrifice was absolutely essential for the Father's will to be done. And so I think we have to accept that.